what I'm interested is, can you explain to us, like, imagine an alien's just landed, right? And they don't know anything about this. Why is it important for us to protect the treaty and to dissuade the public from buying into Seymour's horse shit?
Yep, those are probably all the right words. So the way that I understand it is that Te Tiriti o Waitangi is a vision and a blueprint for our future, where we work together for mutual benefit, for peace, for harmony, and all of those things. What we know is that when this country was so-called founded, there was a relationship that was built between the original people of this land, who were about over 90% of the population,
Mm-hmm.
and the new visitors who were coming over and wanted to make it their home. And unlike many places around the world, which just straight up massacred Indigenous people, let's be real, if we think of the South Americas and many places like that, unlike those places, this country embarked on a treaty process. And that treaty was signed by over 500 leaders of the Indigenous people at that time, and it was signed by representatives of the crown who were coming, and they decided that they would work together to be able to live together in peace and harmony. And what obviously happened since then is that that treaty has been dishonored, it has been breached, it has been broken many countless times. And we're at a time now where political actors, far right political actors, have watched things happen in different countries. For example, the voice referendum in Australia, they've noticed that if they employ certain tactics, certain things, ways of doing things, they can turn the public, the wider public, against a minority of Indigenous people, which is not the only time it's been done, but it's one of many. And so what's really happening here is an opportunistic, bad faith, cynical attempt by some political actors to be able to roll back that treaty, to dishonor the intention of that treaty as it was signed nearly 200 years ago, and to be able to change the terms of it, to change the terms of an agreement that was made by a sovereign people, for an express intent and purpose. So, yeah, really, what this is about reducing barriers to whatever the ACT Party might be doing. It's been talked about before that the treaty protects us against corporate exploitation. It protects us against environmental exploitation. It allows Maori to at least be able to act as the sovereign people that we
Mm.
agreed to do nearly 200 years ago. And so it's not a good faith attempt at a conversation. It really is just a way to roll back the commitment that was made nearly 200 years ago.
If there was somebody watching or listening who was maybe more in the, well, David Seymour is just saying we should all be equal, and they'd bought into that, is there something we could tell that person listening, or give them a gentle nudge to maybe get them to the correct place that you can think of?
Yeah, well, the way that I think about it is that there are lots of good faith, reasonable ways to have conversations about problems that we have in our society. And what I would expect is, if there was going to be a conversation like this, the
Mm-hmm.
first the first task would be to identify the problem. Right? What is the problem that we're facing here? The problem might very well be, for example, as some have mentioned, is that the last government didn't take people on a journey around Te Tiriti o
Mm.
Waitangi. And I think there's some truth to that. So, what would be the solution to that problem? Well, if you have a treaty with an Indigenous people of a country that is very sacred and very serious and part of our constitutional framework, probably the good faith, reasonable, and honorable and honest thing to do would be to approach your treaty partner and say, we're experiencing this problem. How should we go about tackling this problem together? And maybe the answer from Maori, from your treaty partner, might be, well, maybe that's an issue of education, or maybe that's an issue of we need to be talking about it more within local communities. The point being is that you have gone to the the group that you have treated with to be able to tackle that problem together. And the fact that Maori have been completely, deliberately excluded from this process
Yeah.
really just tells you what it's all about. It is an ideological attempt to retroactively change the Te Tiriti o Waitangi as it's interpreted in law, and Māori haven't had a say in it, and it's being dressed up as this idea of equality purely because I believe it's not to say that I don't think people have questions about the role of Te Tiriti o Waitangi in our country, and I think there are legitimate questions. But the question is, how do we have that conversation? How do we do it in line with Te Tiriti? And the ACT Party have been very clear that they do not see Māori as a sovereign people. They do not see the treaty as a partnership. They see it as being in the way of the free market that they are trying to espouse in their politics. And and so that really tells you that this is just an opportunity to roll back rights rather than to be able to have a genuine conversation. Equality is just convenient window dressing. And
Mm.
I'm a campaigner, right? We get taught about how to campaign. One of the things that you get taught, and I'm sure you know this being in media, is that if you say things enough times, I think the magic number is 7, you say them
Repetition.
enough
Yeah.
times, people start to think it's true. And that's really what we're seeing on the equality argument.
Yeah, and that's a lesson through advertising and everything. That's why you see those adverts blasted all over for whatever product is. Repetition also leads the public to think it's important as well within the advertising world.